In this lesson, we're going to be looking at JavaScript JSON and using JSON within our JavaScript. So that's JavaScript object notation. And what JSON does is it gives us an easy to use alternative to XML and allows us to easily transmit and work with data. So we've got a few different options here for JSON. So I'm just going to open up my browser, and there's a really good JSON generator here, so it allows you to generate some random JSON. So we've got all of this randomly generated JSON information, and in order to bring it into JavaScript, because remember again that we are sensitive to white space, so as opposed to if we're just pulling this in from a JSON file, we don't have to worry about it as much. But if we're using it within our JavaScript and we're using it directly as a JavaScript object, then we do need to minify it. So that's what I've done over here, is I've gone to the http utility.net JSON minifier and had the ability to actually take some of this JSON information and paste it in here and then minify it. And then taking this back out, opening up my JavaScript and simply just pasting that in, and also just getting rid of some of that extra spacing. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to look at how we can output JSON into our browser and work with it within JavaScript. So if I was just to console log out the JSON data, just take a look at that, and I'll show you how this is going to look within my browser. And then the next one, we've got a method here, so we're going to parse through JSON and then we're going to output it as an object. And then this is going to be more of a usable object in JavaScript. So let's take a look, open up our browser and refresh it. So the first one, we see that this is represented as a string. So it doesn't actually see it as JSON object, even though it's formatted as a JSON object. This looks to JavaScript just as a regular string. And that's where we need to do this JSON parse in order to turn it into an object. And of course, this looks more workable and more usable. So if I wanted to actually access, or if I wanted to output, so I'm just going to set up, so document get element by ID, because I do have that output element here just above there in the HTML, and I'm going to set that inner HTML and equal it to object dot, so I believe with the name we had, so I can do that as well. So just kind of going back to what we did earlier with JavaScript objects, so it's going to work the same way. So now when I refresh it, say I've got that object first name, and of course I can do a plus, and maybe I want to add in a space here and then do another plus, and instead of first name, I believe it's last name. So now we can refresh it and we can get this user's information from the JSON data, and we, of course, now we can work with it as well within JavaScript. So if I want to take that object, and if I want to take that first name and I want to update it, I can do that as well. So let's take a look and see what happens. And we can see that just like any other JavaScript object, we have the ability to manipulate it, update it, and make changes to it right from the JSON file. So even though that this is initially just a regular JSON file represented as a string, we parse through it and then make that usable and functional as an object within our JavaScript. So in the next lesson, we're going to be looking at additional functionality that we can do with JSON files when it comes to JavaScript. So that's coming up in the next lesson.